For more than a decade, FTI has strived to become the leader in the aftermarket performance transmission and converter industry. We've joined forces with McLeod Driveline Components under the leadership of Top Fuel Funny Car pilot Paul Lee, and now have a larger distribution network, more resources, and more power. Come see us in the pits and ask how you can join the FTI family. It's not cheating, it is the competitive edge.
Hey, it's Antron Brown, driver of the Macro Tools Top Fuel Dragster, and yes, I'm a 3-time world champ. But you know what? When I win, I go straight to WFO Radio, baby. I want to see you listening in.
It's time for an inside look at the most powerful motorsport on the planet. WFO Radio, NHRA Nitro. This is WFO Radio.
Hey everybody, welcome back. WFO Radio back on the air, live streaming and potting to racing fans all around the world. Hopefully you are great. I am great. I'm excited for the 2022 PRI Trade Show headed out to Indianapolis, Indiana tomorrow, and many of you will be watching as you are on your way. Certainly hope you will. So many cool things going to be going down, all kinds of big stories, all kinds of things happening, and I'm going to be right in the middle of it, as will be, I don't know, like 20,000 other racing industry professionals. One of those people will be Alan Reinhart, the voice of the National Hot Rod Association. He will be joining us just seconds from now. We're going to be talking all the latest news and stories. We're going to preview PRI, all the big breaking news here in NHRA drag racing. So share the show. Subscribe, click the bell if you're watching on YouTube, retweet if you're watching on the old Twitter machine, and we'll get right to it. I do want to mention the folks that make it possible. In particular, you already heard a little bit about FTI Performance Transmissions and Torque Converters. I will be hanging out in their booth throughout the show from time to time, swinging by, checking out Paul Lee and everybody down there in the FTIperformance.com booth, but also Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. They've got something really cool going on in booth number 1525. React for your race cars. It is a new pack that is going on to support the RPM Act. You'll get a chance to make a donation. You'll get a chance to test your reaction time against great race car drivers. Hartford's going to be in there. Erica's going to be around. They're all going to be around, maybe in a little Antron Brown. I saw him promoting it. All kinds of big things going on. Booth number 1525. You walk by, just shout out WFO, unless we're recording an episode of Hidden Horsepower. And in that case, just be quiet. Just be like whisper. Phillips Connect. Smart trailer technology, going over the road with more than a few tractor trailers. You definitely need to investigate Phillips-Connect.com. If you are in the transportation industry, go check them out. Smart trailer technology will keep your loads safe, keep them on time, keep the roads safe, because they are monitoring just about everything possible on your tractor trailer. Bernie's Speed Shop. Bernies.com. You're looking for the great Christmas gift for a loved one in your family? Go to Bernies.com. Check out all the inventory they've got of exotic cars, classic cars, muscle cars. If you need a frame-off restoration, something big like that, to window tinting, they do it all at Bernie's in Ocala, Florida, in their 100,000 square foot shop. Go check out Josh Hart, Bernie's. I asked Josh, when are you there? Because, I want to go up to Bernie's. I want to go there during this winter break and scout it out and check out some things. He's like, every day that I'm not at the drag strip. So Bernies.com, check them out, follow them on social media. Later on in the show, I'll tell you about samtech.edu. They'll be out there at PRI, no doubt. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, the Dragster Adventure Program, makes a great gift. And Marvin Rodak's coffeeandgrills.com, the hot sauces, the spice rubs, all that great stuff. And it can take a lot of stress off you for the holidays. Call Marvin, 817-924-6821. Later on in the show, I'll tell you how to become a Patreon and join our VIP listener club behind the scenes pass, backstage pass. But right now, check out Reinhardt's shop. Look at Reinhardt's shop. It looks like, look at that. He walks into the camera. There he is, the voice of the NHRA, wearing his Foggett t-shirt. I'm going to be hanging out with those guys as well. Super excited for PRI. What about you?
I am too. I'm packed. I'm checked in. I am ready to go. Counting the hours until I get on the airplane tomorrow. Looking forward to getting there. I've got a lot of stuff, not just on the business calendar, but on the social calendar. Of course, those who know me know I don't go to the PRI necessarily for the National Hot Rod Association. I go for me, my shop, and things that I do and connections that I have. And so that's it's a big part of doing business for me. I kind of grew up believing that, looking a guy in the eye and shaking his hand and saying thanks and making a deal is still the way to go. And even though we do so much stuff these days with emails and text messages and that kind of stuff, but there are a number of people that I do business with through my shop throughout the course of the year that I only see one time. And it's kind of nice to be able to go by and just, like I said, look a guy in the eye and say, hey, thank you for helping out with this project, or thank you for, and find out what the new technology is. So I will be mowing the lawn, as they say. I've also got a couple of seminars that I'm going to be moderating, so I've got some professional duties as well, and I'm really looking forward to that.
Yes, definitely. It has been since the days in Orlando, right? My first PRI was in Orlando, so that kind of dates when I was going. It was in Indy first, and then I went to Orlando, and then I moved back to Indy, and I lamented that, but now I've learned to like it, actually. I love the very dense nature in which everyone is compressed, and you will... when you're thinking about those deals, right? I remember when I used to work with Jim Mandich, who was an NFL player on the Miami Dolphins. He would talk about the Midwest, but where yes means yes, no means no, and a handshake means we have a deal. And there's a lot of that going on at PRI, not just in the hall, but also in the restaurants and in the bars and the hotels after the fact. Like, it is a nonstop immersion in the racing industry.
Yeah, fun tip for anybody that may be a relative newbie to the PRI show. If, you look at downtown hotel prices and you go, you know what, I can save some money if I stay out by the airport, or if I stay out in Brownsburg, or I stay someplace. No, you can't.
Yeah.
You really can't. By the time you rent the car, drive to town, park, you're not saving anything. And because Indianapolis is one of my 2 or 3 favorite downtowns on the planet. Everything is skywalk connected, so you can go down there. You don't need a car. You don't need to park. You don't need any of that. You can literally, without going outside, walk to hotels, to restaurants, to the convention center, to Lucas Oil Stadium, to all of the places you need to go downtown without ever having to go outside. So you don't need a car, and you don't need to pay to park. And if it's a couple of extra bucks a night for the hotel downtown, it's still worth it.
Absolutely, it is. But I don't know that you should be giving away all the secrets, Alan, because
that's not all of them.
If we didn't have people staying out at the airport, it would be tougher for us to get rooms. No, it's definite. And I've worked with some folks, I was doing the Masters Entertainment deal. They would choose to stay out of the craziness, right? And that was a choice, but it was less convenient than staying in one of the many connected hotels, and there are a bunch, right? Like, you might have to go through a tunnel or a skywalk or go through a parking garage, but you can end up staying indoors mostly and walking to the trade show. We got a lot of people checking in out there. Mark saying what's up, Derek saying what's up, Britt saying what's up, everybody saying good morning. Guys, if you got questions, put them up there in the chat section. But the one that everybody wants to hear about, Alan, before we get to our NHRA and drag racing themed stuff, we got to talk about Antron winning Pro 275 at the Snowbird Nationals. It's not NHRA, but the guy jumps in a suspended car. You don't think it's a big deal? I think it's a big deal, man. I think it's a huge deal for AB.
You think that's the biggest news of the week?
I don't know about that. The biggest news of the week is, I know what the biggest news of the week is. You want me to tell you?
Go ahead.
You got the scooter running.
I got the scooter running.
Come on. This is not my first rodeo. I saw the video. You want to hear something funny and behind the scenes? We put out an amazing attention in the pits this past week, and I was super excited about it, right? Like, I put it out there, and I'm watching the numbers grow, attention in the pits. It was a cool car. And then I see the CUDA video, and the CUDA video is beating the attention in the pits video. But it was great the way you did it, and it's running, and it's alive.
Yeah, all I got to do now is I'll make it stop for one, and then move on to the next thing, and I don't even know what the next thing is. I did find out yesterday, a helpful tip for those of you who are putting a hot rod in storage. If you have a magnesium water pump housing and it's full of antifreeze, do not let it set for 22 years. Okay. Helpful tip.
Good pro tip there. What happens if you do?
Well, stand by.
There it is. See, that's what we do, folks, is like Reinhart is going to get. There's the CUDA, by the way. I didn't think I noticed it had roof rail, which is very cool. but he is coming back. Share the show, folks. This is the kind of stuff. You got to share the show, retweet, social media, all you people on the F-book. Share this. Let's get it out there so that our PRI folks can get excited about the trade show. We're going to talk a little bit about that.
Well, here's the deal. I filled up the radiator with water, and it didn't leak. I was pretty happy about that. I turned on the water pump. Anybody remember the old Moroso stuff where you had a little motor over here and then the belt that drove the water pump? That's what this one had. And it didn't circulate water. And I'm like, why would it be not circulating water? So then I started taking things apart and looking at stuff. And when you take off the thermostat housing and see that.
Yikes.
Yeah. And then like that.
Yikes.
So anyway, do not leave a magnesium housing with antifreeze for 20 plus years. That's your helpful storage tip of the day. Your second one, use Foggit if you're going to be storing your race car because, as you know, surface rust can begin forming in the cylinders very quickly after you park your race car for the year. So use a little Foggit. There you go. That's your helpful storage tips. So
yeah, and I'm excited to see Gary and Steve up there and Foggit. Like that's a new brand that is, one of those things that's mandatory that people don't use. Right? Like, let's just put it away for the night, especially people in Florida. But we'll talk more about that. But you got it running, and that's what matters. And on that note, now we can talk about Antron winning drag radial race in his drag radial debut. I find it impressive. The guy's, top fuel guy. Of course, he's used to the fastest cars on earth, and this guy's won on pro stock motorcycles, and he's a very capable racer regardless. But anytime anyone gets in something new to them against people who are doing it on a regular basis and is able to compete with them, that's impressive to me. And Antron,
what was his winning time in the final?
It's like was it a 64?
No, it was 371.
Okay. 370. Okay. 371 to 374. Yes.
And what's a decent run in a top fuel car?
To the eighth?
371.
Yeah.
No, 371.
Right.
I mean, big deal. So what? So he had a windshield and he got in through the door and started climbing in the top. He won a race that lasted 3.7 seconds. When has he ever done that before? 1,000 times.
I get your point. But driving the car's got to be
different. That's cool. Yeah, I thought it was really cool to see. I love the fact that he was willing to get out of his comfort zone and go try that. I love the fact that they gave him a shot to do it. I mean, you got to have a lot of confidence in somebody to go, okay, look, here's my $150,000 or $200,000 race car.
Yep.
Be nice to it, and the fact that he was able to go out there and run well, and I think he ended up qualifying second when it was all over, if I'm not mistaken. But then running the table, winning the race. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, and Jamie Miller, the crew chief, Manny Bajinga, the car known as Fred or Frida. Antron tried to make it a lady, but just exciting. And I like that. I think just like when Tony Stewart jumped in A Fuel and made the final round, that cross-pollination of drivers, whether it be, Tony going drag racing or Top Fuel Antron going radial racing, it just adds a little extra seasoning to whatever the event is. And in this case, he won it.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of people, especially in the corner turning world, that throw rocks at drag racing, right? And if that's your mentality, fine. But the reality of it is, it's all a game of concentration. You've got to be able to feel it in your seat. You've got to be able to have ultimate focus, and you've got to be able to make the right choices and make the right corrections without thinking about it. It's as simple as that. And drivers that drive cars as fast as Antron does are going to have very quick reactions, very quick reflexes, and they're going to have a very good seat of the pants feel. Concentration's not an issue. You got to focus. So I think that's why it carries over. And I think, you look at the same thing, what Tony Stewart said. He said, it's not, okay, you burn out, you back up, you hit the gas and you hold the steering wheel straight. It's procedures. It's making sure you take all the steps and do everything right, because if you miss a little something, you literally can screw up backing up from the burnout and ruin the run. So you've got to be able to keep your focus and stay on procedure and do what you need to do. And somebody that is good enough to do that in one discipline generally can take those abilities and transfer it to another discipline. It may be a little bit of a different feel. It may be a little bit of a different routine or a different procedure, but it's concentration, it's reaction, it's feeling the car and making the right corrections. And if you can do that at a high level, you're going to be able to do that at a high level no matter what you get in.
Yeah, well, he proved it, and great stuff. Jim Halsey wins the big event down there, Snowbird Nationals. They threw the word outlaw in there a little bit, but that is a race, a legacy race that has been going for many years. It used to be the Citrus Nationals and then the Snowbird Nationals, like pretty much back to back here in South Florida. Now that PBIR Moroso is gone, our 35-year legacy race in South Florida, southeastern Florida is gone. We're all very sad about that. Thank goodness the Snowbirds can continue. Unfortunately, Bradenton, where Wes is going to be having his World Series of Pro Mod, big announcements coming out about that at PRI. They're going to have that down there, and we got to have that premier drag strip. And it's not South Florida necessarily. It's on the West Coast, but we need as many as possible, Orlando, Bradenton, Gainesville, really the premier facilities in Florida that are accessible to South Floridians. It's 3 hours to get to Bradenton, but a pretty cool event. Brian was over there, and a lot of people I know were watching it on the stream.
Yeah, I didn't catch it on the stream. I was busy working on Project CUDA here most of the weekend, but I was kind of following along. At the end of the day, I go back and look at the results and see what everybody did and how it happened. But it looked like it was a pretty good event. So, I'm all for it. Anything that puts action on the track and brings fans to the track, sign me up.
All right. So, folks, you got a question for Alan, put it up in the chat section right now. We encourage you to subscribe, click the bell, check out all our sponsors, of course. But it's going to be like good news, bad news. Let's play good news. Just posted on Competition Plus. Erica Enders has assigned a large sponsor or a associate sponsor, Skag Power Equipment, expanding their role in the NHRA beyond Tony Schumacher, which is great. Tony brought them into the sport, and now they will be featured prominently on Erica Enders' Pro Stocker, which I think that's great for Skag. Tony, brings them into the sport. He worked the deal. He signed them on. I think it's a 6 years deal with 3 and a chance to re-up for 3. And he told us how proud he was of bringing on that deal and what a big deal it is. And now they've seen such a great benefit in drag racing. They want to expand to another category. Who better to be involved with than Erica Enders?
Hey, you know what? If you can get on the fender of the Champions car, that's a pretty good place to go. They went with Tony, obviously the winningest driver in Top Fuel, and now they're going with Erica, who, while she's not the winningest in Pro Stock, she is certainly one of the best and certainly the current stars out there. So, and I also think they're probably going to have some kind of signage sort of a connection with some of the other cars coming out of the Elite trailer. I think you look at what Don Schumacher did over the course of the years, where he would bring in, major sponsor for Joe, but you also get to be on Alan's car, and you get to be on Tim's car, and you get to be on Fred's car, and you get to be on, so that you've got more shots at being in the winner's circle, more shots at good publicity. And, I think that, Erica, obviously, great spokesperson and very, very, has a very strong following. And I think that's going to get people to take a look. And that's what it's really all about, right? If you're an Erica fan and you're needing outdoor power equipment, would you now at least give Skag a look? And that's all you can ask for. If you convince me to come into your showroom, so to speak, if you then can't show me a product that I'm willing to buy, that's your fault. But getting somebody to at least take a look and come into the showroom, that's what sponsorship in motorsports does.
Absolutely. Gives you more time to talk about it. And then the announcers will be saying Skag twice as much. Now, Monica says, nice to see a sponsor expansion in the sport. That's what it's all about. This guy wants to know, what motor is in this Barracuda?
It's a 440 wedge.
All right. 440 wedge. There you go. Alan, do you do any announcing during the off season? If yes, where? Asks Dawn.
Not a lot. In years past, I've done, some of the banquets. I've done the Division 6 and 7 banquet the last few years, and branched out and done a few others. Also did the Division 1 stuff, although, COVID was kind of weird. But I don't do a lot of at-track announcing simply because there's not really a lot going on. There are a few events that happen down here, but most of the big stuff, if the No Prep Kings come in, or somebody like that, then they bring their own people. So I don't do a lot during the off season, but I am a contractor, and I'm available. So if you got something, let me know. I can do, bar mitzvahs or mall openings or whatever you got.
Exactly. Mall openings, bar mitzvahs, the new Alante, whatever, he can do it. Okay. The bad news. Well, it all depends on how you're looking at it, but Jim Campbell has been a part of the sport for, 6-7 years now with they have decided to part ways, and Jim has got a nice post on his Facebook page. After many great years of working with Jim Dunn Racing, we've mutually decided to part ways. They will hold a special place in my life over the years and have become my family. Looking forward to the next stage in my career. Can't wait to get back out there at the track soon, says Jim Campbell. He had a long run, a solid run. His final runs down the track, he was able to run his career best, ran 392 as they picked up their performance. Jim Dunn Racing will announce at PRI who their new driver relationship is going to be. It's Alan Reinhart. That's exactly right. It's not Alan Reinhart. You're too
I am the answer to every question. Who's gonna put it all me? Until it's not.
Right, exactly. It's very self-focused of you, but that is okay. That is okay. What about that though? Like good news, bad news. Like Jim had a great run with Jim Dunn Racing. He got to spend many seasons behind the wheel of one of them. You know, they've got a great fan base. And like he said, what a life experience. Amazing. But at some point, the team made a decision to go in a different direction for reasons that they know. I'm sure they'll talk about them. And whoever the new relationship is will shed some light on that as well.
Yeah, and I think that'll be the real factor when at PRI they make the announcement and tell the world that it's me. Then everything will kind of come into focus. But as you said, they had a pretty good run, and Jim Dunn, for a guy that does not have a big budget, but he's been able to stay out there. He races smart. He does it conservatively, right? He's not going to go out and set the track record, but he's also not going to go out and blow the body off of the thing. So he does it conservatively. He does it with a much smaller budget than some of the big teams have. And he's been able to bring some new faces, new names into the sport from a sponsor standpoint, simply because he doesn't need $20 billion to do it, right? Come out and get acquainted and get your feet wet. So I think it was a good run for both of them. The fact that Jim Campbell finished in the top 10 a year ago or 2 years ago is a very strong indication of how good the team is, considering their budget restrictions and what they've got to work with. So looking forward to the announcement that whoever's going to drive the car next year and hopefully for years to come.
Yes, Captain Dave out there from Bahrain says to say hi to you. He was on with us the other day when we talked to Greg Anderson. I think you guys hung out when you went to the Middle East the first time.
Okay, yeah, Dave. Hi, Dave. How are you?
There he is.
I may be coming to visit you at some point during this winter break, and that's not breaking news. That's just a rumor.
It's just a rumor. How about that? So, Captain Dave, be ready. Mark says, was Campbell a paid ride bringing sponsorships to Jim Dunn Racing? The details of people's deals, I don't know exactly, but I think it was well publicized that most of the drivers over there usually help out.
Well, I mean, yes and no. When Tony Bartone drove the car, he was not bringing financing. So I don't know what their personal arrangement was. It's really none of my business. And that's that.
And then people start to speculate, like, oh, is the new driver bringing more money? Like, we don't know. Captain Dave says outstanding. So he's excited that you're coming out there. Maybe.
I don't know. It'll be good to see him. I haven't seen him Vegas or Dallas, someplace a couple of years ago. He took some leave and came over. And hopefully we'll be able to get together and catch up.
Excellent. Big changes at the NHRA, Alan. I think it's kind of interesting. Since we last parted, I think this news was breaking. Of course, the folks at the news, the people that break the news wait for WFO to go like off the air, and then they release all the news, right? Tuesday, 1:00. Are they clear? They're clear. Okay. Release the news, and then we'll go back, but don't worry. We will catch up. But this one, I'm mostly joking. We knew that a lot of this was coming, but major changes at the NHRA divisional director level. People that I know are good friends of yours and mine, people that I've come to really like and appreciate. Dave Moan, of course, Rob Park. These guys, they're moving on. Mike Rice has been promoted to the senior director of competition, is going to go to every single race. I'm super excited about that because I think the world of Mike Rice. So there's all kinds of changes, right? Nick Duty coming on board, Craig Curdy coming on board. These are people. One of them, I think, is from Tucson, right? Isn't that Craig Curdy? So
Matt DeYoung.
Okay. All right. Exactly. All right. Yeah, I got it right here. Matt DeYoung, who's taken over for Mike Rice, Division 7. So talk a little bit about these guys. I'm going to get to know them. I have no personal relationship with any of them, but it's exciting for them to have this new wave of energy come in. And at the same time, I'm going to miss our longtime friends who have put so much into the sport of drag racing.
I am as well, but the sport, it continues to grow, it continues to evolve. Dave Mohn's been a part of the NHRA family for, if not 30 years, pretty darn close. And just time for him to step away. His wife is very involved in the family business. I understand that he's going to be getting more involved in that side of things. And the travel also kind of wears on you. Even though the division directors may not spend, their travel might not be as publicized as yours and mine, but they're driving to the races. They're not flying. And when you've got 6 or 7 divisional events, regional events, and you've got, some of them have national opens, some of them have various other divisional things, the super quick series that they do in Division 3 and others. You spend a lot of time on the road and a lot of time away from the family. And at some point, it just gets to where, somebody's got to call timeout. So the fact that a lot of them are changing at the same time, Matt Lavonis actually announced on his Facebook page the other day that he was ending his tenure at NHRA as well. He's got young twins at home. And he said, basically, I need to be there to help my wife and be with my family at this time. So that is part of the problem. I think if he could do the job and be home every day, that wouldn't be a problem. But you simply can't do that. I think that the elevation of Mike Rice is good on a number of levels. I mean, one, you mentioned he's going to be going all to the national events. That's great. But he's also going to be kind of overseeing all the division stuff. I know that you've been in situations before where you're at a divisional race, you're at a regional race, something weird happens, right? It's like, okay, what's the right call to make in this situation? And what's everybody do? They call Mike Rice. Hey, this just came up, this happened, this is what I'm thinking. Tell me, policy book, what do we do? What have we done in the past? And I think that he's going to be elevated in that role, kind of overseeing and being there in an advisory capacity. Now, Rob is not disappearing off the face of the earth. He's still going to be around. He's still going to be involved. He's going to help with the transition. I understand Matt Lavonis, same thing. He is going to try to help and do whatever he can with the transition. So even though we've had, some pretty big changes, and how crazy is it now that Will Tharp is the senior division director?
Is that real?
Yeah.
Get out of here. Will is probably out there right now. Will Tharp is the senior. Well, there's Maddie, and I guess so. Doing some quick math. That's how fast.
Will was advanced before Cody Savage, so that would make Cody the second. And now with 4 of them rolling over, basically right now, Maddie's third, and everybody else is going to be coming in new. So there's going to be. But I also think new blood, new ideas. I spoke to Matt DeYoung. I was out at his racetrack filming something that you're going to see in, let's just say, off of the normal racing stuff coming up later. I filmed something that was a kind of a slice of life thing for a mainstream media deal, and got an opportunity to talk to Matt. And he said that when they were having conversations, when he was having conversations with the NHRA brass, part of the deal is they look at what he's done in Tucson. Okay, now Tucson is not New York City from a major market standpoint. We're not quite Podunk, but we are a small track in a mid-sized city, and the things that Matt has done to keep the racetrack busy and the ideas that he's brought in and the things, especially going through COVID, right? Because the racetrack is on county-owned property, it's on fairgrounds property, so they had pretty strict guidelines they had to go with. But being able to implement programs, what he's done down here with, take it to the track instead of the street, their Beyond 1320 program for the guys that, they don't want organized drag racing. Don't want that. We don't want a bracket race. We don't want to dial in. We don't want to. I just want to come out and kick this guy's tail. And I don't want to do it on a prepared racetrack, and I don't want to do it on concrete. I'm going to simulate as much as we can. So that started the Beyond 1320 program, where they actually race in the shutdown area. So it's not concrete, it's not prepped, it is as close as you can simulate. But working with local media, local law enforcement to tell the guys, hey, look, do you want to get your car impounded? Do you want somebody to pull out in front of you? Do you want, or do you want to come out here and we will give you the environment that you're asking for? And that's become a tremendous program. But a number of things that Matt has done, which is kind of, out of the box is almost a cliche, but just new style thinking for how can we get people to come to the racetrack. And I think that those are some of the ideas, and he was pretty candid that, he told Josh and he told Glenn and he told Mike that, I am going to try to implement some of this stuff at other tracks and at the division level. I want to kind of open this, and they were all for it. So, one of the, the new street legal initiative that NHRA has been pushing for the last couple of years, and the Speed for All initiative, now that we've got the electric vehicle category exclusively, there's a lot going on out there. And, having some fresh blood and some new thinking in the game, I think is going to be a big plus.
Absolutely. Well, fresh ideas is always important. And we have seen as the NHRA has really began to move again after, let's go back to, the 2007 financial crisis where everyone was like, oh my gosh, are we going to survive? Who's going to survive? They did survive. And bringing in TV production in-house, bringing on NHRA.TV, streaming the divisional events complimentary, all of these different things that have happened in the coverage of the sport, within the sport, things like the Parade of Champions, all the social media stuff we do, just constantly trying to do more and more. That is good for the sport. And like you said, like not everybody wants to be an organized drag racer as much as I think that's, I don't know what to think about it, honestly, Alan, because we do this Fastlane Friday program at Homestead Miami Speedway, and those racers, they would love to have a better prepped situation, but it's just not possible because it's pit road of a NASCAR track, and we're lucky to have whatever we've got. And so thank you very much. The idea of taking it to the streets and being out there, like dodging police and risking having your car impounded, thousands of dollars, going to jail, like the idea that people would choose that in 2022 after 50 years of knowledge of how bad it is. But those people are out there, and I guess you got to reason with them where they are in their lives at that moment. But you got to do what you got to do, and it's great that it's working.
Well, I think people that have fast cars and the people that have the mentality of, I want to go out and I want to exercise my equipment a little bit are going to do it, period. And I think you look at, Denver was a perfect example of that because they had very severe COVID restrictions in Denver that kept the racetrack closed even when many other parts of the country and other things were opening up. And all of a sudden they've got a street racing issue because people are going to go find a way to get that out of your system, and they literally were closing down some streets at night just because that's the only way they could stop the street racers from going out there. When all they had to do was open the drag strip back up, which makes what are you thinking? But I think a lot of communities have seen that, right? It's like we hate the racetrack, yay, the racetrack's closed. What do we do with all these street racers? Well, you took away their park, right? These guys they just want to go to the park on the weekend, whether it's a ballpark or whether it's a drag strip. They want to have a place to go spend their leisure time and do this stuff. And it's been interesting. I've been doing a little research, some of the EV stuff, because a couple of the seminars that I'm doing are kind of focused on the EV thing, and reaching out to some of the tracks and some of the people that are involved. The number of people that will come out to the racetrack for the first time or the second time or something to try their EVs out are not really interested in getting involved in bracket racing, or they're not really interested in getting involved in organized. They want to come out on a test and tune or on a wild Wednesday. They want to make runs. Then they want to see, can we do a little something? Can we get a little faster? Is my car really faster than my neighbor's? That kind of stuff. But getting them to put a number on the window and stuff is something that is taking a little bit of convincing or a little bit of talking to. And it's, it's part of the process. Because I grew up going out to the racetrack with guys that were old enough to drive and had cars. I grew up watching that, and it just as soon as I got a driver's license, I'm in, right? Where's the shoe polish? Let's go. I'm ready. But the new generation and new stuff coming along is just a little bit different. So step one, let's get them to the racetrack. Let's get them off the streets. Let's get them coming out in a controlled environment, and let's get them doing it where they need to be. Step two now is how do we get them more involved than just coming out and making a couple of runs or 5 runs on a wild Wednesday. Whatever it takes. Is it we need to do some kind of a no clock, no prep? Okay, then let's talk about that. Do we need to make their own class, make their own, separate them from the guys? Because if I'm going out there in a Tesla and I just want to see if my car will really run 9s like they said it would, which, spoiler alert, a Plaid will.
It will.
I don't want now to have to get into competition against some guy who's got a bump up and a bump down and a crosstalk. And That's not why I'm here. So how do we now get this person involved in competition? And you're going to need, I think, some new thinking. I really love the EV program that the Summit Racing League now has, that all of the tracks or all of the NHRA tracks at least have available. If you've got participants that want to come out and do this, they can run it amongst themselves. They can run their own program, and I think it's great.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot to unpack there, and it all depends on where you are and what you cater to your customers. What do you got? What's your area? What can you do? There are a lot of areas where diesel trucks are really big, and there's a lot of fast diesel trucks, and it all depends. But in the end, we need racetracks, and the racetracks have to have customers, and the customer is always right. So if you're trying to serve them up one thing and they don't like it, you're trying to serve them pizza and they want cheeseburgers, well, you got a problem, and you've got to adapt. And I think adapting is part of what drag racers do. So it'll be interesting. I like the electric stuff. I mean, I made a joke about losing to an electric car out at Palm Beach. Then I went to the, Vegas, and we saw the Summit finals with the first EV class championship, and they were all Teslas with exception of one. And they were dialed exactly what this guy was dialed against me. And I took note of that. Like, man, they all run like the same too. It's not like a combustion car that, there's going to be the fast one and there's going to be the one that's not quite as fast for whatever reasons. They're not exactly all the same. These things were dialed exactly the same. And I was like, man, this guy's got an 11-second car. He just drove it here. That's amazing. And they were bracket racing, right? Like, I think bracket racing comes from lack of budget. Like, once you've run your car 100 times, and you've maxed out the performance on the things you can afford to do, and you're not going to get considerably quicker anymore without a major investment. And everybody that you're going to race knows they got you beat, or you're going to beat them for the most part. What do you do? And that's where bracket race keeps it going. Like, you can compete against cars that are slower and faster than you. And I still think, like, look at the big money stuff, right? I still think that bracket racing is the cornerstone of successful racetracks, because those people come every week. The bracket racers, it's their bowling league. They're always there. Like, Joe goes bowling twice a year. The bowling league people, they're there 2-3 times a week.
Yes and no, but if you're trying to sustain a racetrack strictly on bracket racing, you are in for a very, very tough road, because a couple of times a week maybe is all you're going to be able to open your doors. If you're trying to sustain a bowling alley, you probably have leagues coming in there 5, 6, maybe 7 nights a week. When I was bowling regularly, trying to find open bowling on a evening was a very difficult task, because most of the bowling alleys around here had their leagues coming in there. So that's when you need to start going, what else can we do? Instead of thinking about it as this is just a drag strip for bracket racing, what else can we do? And if I've got a racetrack, especially if I'm in a noise community, okay, like Englishtown used to be, like Pomona is. If I'm the general manager of the racetrack and I've got an opportunity to do that, I'm doing electric only on Tuesday or on Wednesday, because they don't make any noise. You're not going to bother the neighbors. And now you have an opportunity for these people to come out and race amongst their community, right? Amongst their peers, and not necessarily amongst people that, that have 7-second dragsters that look at an electric car and look down on it. I'd rather get them to come out there. Now, that's another opportunity to open your gates. It's another opportunity to generate revenue on a night when you weren't doing anything, and you're not going to upset your neighbors. And, when you reach out to the community, you see these people on the street that are doing things they shouldn't be doing. I'm inviting you, come out and do it where you should do it. And I just think that's an opportunity that if I am a racetrack operator, middle of the week, I'm doing electric vehicles only one night, and see where it goes. I mean, am I going to get 500 of them the first night? No. But if I get 20 of them, they're going to spread the word. And within a couple of weeks, I bet I'm going to have 100. And, is it going to pay my mortgage for the year? No. But is it going to generate more income? Absolutely.
Yes, it's interesting dynamic to see where it's going. You and I both know, though, that a lot of people, I don't want to put a percentage on it, but a lot of people in the racing world, the combustion world, have a seething hatred for the concept of electric cars, and don't want to entertain the option that those things might be interesting to some people. much the way I will admit that I felt about import drag racing early on. I did not like it. I was like, what's the point? Honda Civic, like that's an inferior piece of equipment. Like what are you doing with that? Front wheel drive. It's definitely not designed for this. What are you doing? Except all the people that were racing them were having the time of their lives, right? They were loving it. They were out there and they made their own little scene and future and went out there and did great stuff. And now they run in the 6s and in the 5s. 2JZ's running in the 5s. It's crazy. And I've learned as I've gotten older and realized the error of my ways, right? Like sometimes you should be open to new things. And they are. I think that's the way people are with the EVs. But I will tell you, though, it is a little frightening to me. Like this guy saying EV is the future. I don't know. I think the sound of an engine is always going to have a place. And there's going to be people who always want the sound of an engine. But that Plaid, like, what the heck is up with that, Alan? We're 10 years into this experience, and there's street cars that run 9s. Where are we going to be in 10 more years? Are we going to have street cars that run 7s? Is that going to happen as the Walkmanification of electric cars? They become smaller and more powerful, the motors. And so, yeah, I bought this thing, and it runs 790s from the factory. Isn't that amazing? Let's go. Like, what?
And I think, you bring up the imports, and it's funny because I had a lot of discussion with a lot of people, when the import movement was very big. By the way, ask Matt Hartford about that at some point.
I know. I was thinking about him.
That's where he got started. But for the number of people that were throwing rocks at the imports, I'm thinking they're exactly like me. Exactly like me. When I was 16, 17, 18 years old, you could buy a 10 or 12-year-old Camaro or a Mustang or Roadrunner, or they were affordable cars. You could buy them. I paid $1,800 for my Mustang when I bought it. Now, that was a lot of money. I bought a big block Fairlane one time, I think, for $600. But you could buy those cars. And then what do? Well, you buy a set of headers for it. You buy a manifold for it. You buy a carburetor for it. Maybe you change a camshaft. You take what you've got and you start making upgrades to it. Well, when these young people, and we're talking in probably the late 90s, early 2000s, the cars they could afford were Hondas, were Toyotas, were Nissans. That's what they could afford. That's what's available. That's what they went and got. So then what did they do? Well, you buy a chip for it. You start tuning on it. You put a turbo on it. It's exactly the same thing. What we did was take the cars we could afford and try to make them faster. What they did was take the cars they could afford and that they drove and try to make them faster. There's no difference. And I don't see electric taking over and obsoleting internal combustion engines in racing. But I welcome them to come join the party. There's room for everybody.
Yeah, that's a great attitude. And again, if you're going to try to make a living in racing, you've got to have as many options as are possible. And so I like that conversation. It's interesting to see where it goes. And so you'll be doing a seminar on that out at PRI?
I'm actually doing a couple of them. I'm doing one, basic EV stuff, and then I'm doing one on performance opportunities in the aftermarket for EV stuff. And it's going to be interesting. I've got some really, really sharp guys on the panel and some guys that are like neck deep in this stuff. And I'm looking forward to both of them. I really am.
That's interesting. I've heard the rumors of the Tesla, model upgrade that for bracket racing, which is really interesting. And it's a plug-in that I hear about that, you plug in obviously, and it turns the one of the switches into a trans brake style button, and the car is programmed to run exactly the same ET to 1,000th of a second every single time. Because, it's electric and it just knows how to do that. And it just runs the exact number every single time through the programming of the car. Isn't that interesting, Alan?
Yeah, I'd like to take that car and put him up against Justin or Pete Biondo or, LaBouche or one of those bracket bomber guys, best of 5, just for fun.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so just so you know, I just made that up, but it doesn't sound impossible when we're talking about that stuff.
There was a guy out in Las Vegas that had a delay box for his Tesla. And during, when I did the welcome dinner thing for the Summit ET guys, it's in my notes. And I made the comment, I said, how do you put a delay box in a Tesla? And the guy came up and showed me. And he's like an electrical engineer, like ridiculously smart guy. And he built this thing, used 3D printers to build the apparatus would actually sit in the twin cup holders, and it unplug the accelerator pedal, which obviously is a potentiometer, and you plug the delay box in, and you plug in the other side. You can install or remove this thing in like 2 minutes, literally. Unplug the gas pedal, plug the two things in, and now you've got a delay box. And I thought, that's fascinating. But things like that, I think, are going to be opportunities coming up for the electric market. And if I'm in the aftermarket and I'm throwing rocks at electric, that's pretty stupid. If I'm in the aftermarket, I should be looking at, this is a brand new segment. How do I get to be the first one there?
Absolutely. Cheating Opportunities with Electric Vehicles by Alan Reinhart.
There you go.
Listen, if you're not thinking about that stuff, my goodness, I like it. Hey, breaking news, Alan. Breaking news. Fresh out on NHRA.com. We outlasted them this week. They did not wait until after the show was over. NHRA announces call-out events for Pro Stock Motorcycle and the Camping World Series schedule. A Pro Stock specialty race is coming to Chicago, while a Pro Stock Motorcycle class will make its Seattle debut and compete in a call-out event in Sonoma. NHRA has unveiled the category schedule for its 4 professional categories in the NHRA Camping World Series for the 2023 season, as well as announcing the highly anticipated NHRA Pep Boys All-Star Callouts. Excuse me, it doesn't say All-Star Callout events in both Pro Stock and Pro Stock Motorcycle, adding the scheduled Pep Boys NHRA All-Star Callout specialty races in Top Fuel and Funny Car. So it sounds to me that the Pep Boys All-Star Callouts are the Nitro Callouts, and maybe the Pro Stock and Pro Stock Motorcycle ones are to be named. But that's interesting news, and I think a great idea. I want to see that for our naturally aspirated brethren, and they're getting it.
I do too, and I think Chicago's a great place to do it for Pro Stock. You know, we're going back in there for the first time in a few years. Obviously, want to make a splash, right? We need to show the Chicago market that this needs to not be a one-off, that this is something, you know, fans come out and support us, and hopefully, you know, the city leaders and the others will understand as well. The mayor of Joliet was there when we were at the revival last year. And as far as the bike thing, you know, Sonoma's where they've had their specialty race for a long time, so that seems like a great place for it. You know, the racetrack has always embraced that, and the fans up there, big motorcycle fans, right? You've been out there when the weather's nice and you look at the parking up the side of the hill, and how many motorcycles are up there? All of them. So good for both of them. It's great that they both have an extra event. It's great that they both have an extra opportunity to make a little money, and I look forward to seeing who the financial partner is on both of them.
Yes,
I can guess, but
you don't do it. Let them have a little news as well. And the schedule is up on NHRA.com. I'm just going to rapid fire. Obviously, Top Fuel and Funny Car are going to be at all the races. The Funny Car call out is going to be at Indy, Pro Stock Motorcycle at Sonoma, Pro Stock at Chicago, and the Top Fuel call out will remain at Gainesville, first race of the year. Pro Stock is going to start the season in Gainesville, go to Phoenix, go to Pomona, go to Vegas 4-wide, do Charlotte 4-wide, and Chicago, and then take Epping off. So now no Pro Stock at Epping, but then back at Bristol, Norwalk, and Denver, no Pro Stock at Seattle or Sonoma, but then Pro Stock the rest of the way. So Pro Stock off a couple of weekends. Pro Stock Motorcycle, Gainesville, then 3 races off the, what are we calling that? The spring swing, Phoenix, Pomona, Vegas.
okay.
They'll be back for Charlotte, Chicago. They'll take Epping off as well. So no Pro Stock Motorcycle in Epping. But then you'll have Bristol, Norwalk, Denver, Seattle, and Sonoma. So you're going to have the bikes in Seattle and Sonoma, but no Pro Stock cars. But then Topeka and Brainerd will be off. Brainerd is back for Pro Stock. We talked about that already. And then you've got Indy, Reading, Charlotte, St. Louis, Dallas, Vegas, Pomona, a full 6-race countdown for the Pro Stock motorcycles. They're going to run for the final 7 races of the year. And there is your 23 NHRA national event category schedule. I like it. Like right off the top of my head, I like it. There's always going to be people like, well, they're not coming to my track this year. That's why you have to, if you love the category, you go to a new track. And there's a good chance it will be back at your track in a couple of years as these categories shift back and forth from one facility to another.
I'm looking forward to seeing the bikes up in Seattle. I think that, Seattle has always been known as a pretty fast racetrack, and I think there's a pretty good motorcycle culture up there. I hope that the fans in Seattle will embrace the motorcycles like the fans in Sonoma do. And, are we going to miss Pro Stock out on the West Coast? Absolutely. Do I understand it? Again, absolutely. You look at the economics of dragging the truck and trailer and the stuff around. It's very difficult to justify going to Seattle and not Sonoma, or going to Sonoma and not Seattle. So I think that's why they made the decision that, okay, the Pro Stock cars are going to skip those two this year, but the motorcycles are going to be there. So we're still going to have some gas burning action up there for the fans. And we'll see. I think it's not completely out of the realm that they could swap going over the years. Maybe 2 years the motorcycles go out and do the West, and then maybe the year after that they swap. The motorcycles don't do the West Coast swing, and the Pro Stock cars go back. And if that's the way it ends up, I'm good with it. But it's, when you put together, there's just so much that goes into putting together the schedule, and a lot of it is economics for the race teams. And I really appreciate what the decision makers in NHRA go through to make this happen. You're never going to please everybody, but you have to, I think, do the best you can for everybody involved. That's part of the reason, or a big part of the reason, that we're starting in Gainesville this year. Because without Houston and Atlanta as stepping stones going across the country, it made no sense to go to Pomona, Phoenix, Gainesville, and then all the way back to Vegas. No sense. Why would you crisscross the country twice? Now, if you can go to Pomona and Phoenix, and then Gainesville, and then Houston, and then Vegas, and then Atlanta, you're kind of, you can make a map out of that. But instead of just going 2,000 miles this direction, 2,000 miles that direction, so since so many of the teams go down to Florida to test anyway, and a couple of years ago when we started in Gainesville out of necessity, that was pretty well received. So we do that. Now everybody heads to the West Coast one time for that 3-race swing. And it just economically, it makes sense for everybody. And it's not just the teams. I think a lot of especially the race fans, NHRA has no idea what they're doing to the truck drivers. Guys, we have 6 semis and a handful of pickups and chaparral type trailers that travel the whole circuit as well. Believe me, NHRA knows what they're doing to the truck drivers because they have a lot of them. And if you don't think that they get some input about, hey guys, does this make sense? Can we get there in a safe and legal fashion? Do we need to do something else? It's all part of the process. There's really a lot that goes into that.
Yeah, very much so. And I appreciate the challenge. Just looking at some of the comments in the comment section, if your category that you like is not at your favorite race, of course, you're going to be bummed out. Somebody says it's not worth even going if I can't see Erica. And that's good reason to go somewhere where she's going to be. If you really love Erica, or if you want to support your local track, then you go to both, right? Okay. Like NFL fans, many of them go to, we don't have such a thing as a season ticket, right? It's very difficult for us. Like the Miami Dolphins, they sold out their season tickets the second they announced a trade for Tyreek Hill, right? And so you're going to have 8 games that are or 9 games now that are sold out. And everyone's going to go, and you're going to go to multiple things on the weekend. Drag racing comes to your town once, maybe twice a year. So real diehard drag racing fans, if they want to be involved, they got to go to more than one event. What's the next event you're going to go to? All right, you can't see Erica in Epping. Well, you can see her in Maple Grove. It's not that far. Boston to Philly. Philly, drive in there, 45 minutes. Next thing you know, you're at the Grove and you're sporting the Koretsky's. Drag racing fans, I hope, I'm spending other people's money here, but I hope we'll do that and experience more tracks than just their own home track.
If you can get from Boston to Reading in 45 minutes, I'd like to go for that ride.
No, I said Boston to Philly airplane. And then
airplane. Okay. I'm sorry. That makes more
Philly,
sense.
And then it's a 45-minute drive. That's not a bad.
I've made that drive. And
yeah, no, I've done. I did New York to Boston, and I didn't like that. I can't even imagine having to go over to Maple Grove. But the point is traveling to see, getting on a plane to go to a drag race. It's not beyond the realm of possibility. A lot of people do it. And as a once-a-year bucket list experience, there's a lot of people that do it, and they pick a new track each year. And I think this schedule encourages that, and it's a good thing.
I'm with you. And, as you said, if your favorite class isn't at your racetrack this year, that's not forever. in a year or two down the road, hopefully they'll rotate back in, and you'll have an opportunity to see them then. But a chance to go on a road trip or a plane trip to get away for a weekend, why not? If it's within your means, you. When I started doing this, I still had a full-time job way back when, and I would fly out Wednesday afternoon or early Thursday morning, go to the race, and then if I could get out Sunday night, I'd fly home Sunday night so I could be back in my office on Monday morning. I had to take care of the guy that was paying me full-time while I was kind of getting my feet wet in the drag racing thing. And I remember I'd come home and somebody would go, "How was Philadelphia?" No idea. I got to the airport at 11 o'clock. I drove straight to the hotel. I went back and forth to the racetrack. I went straight back to the airport. I left. I have no idea what Philadelphia is. And so when I got to the point where racing was my livelihood and I had a little bit of extra time, then I just took an extra day. I want to go see Philadelphia, right? I want to go see the Liberty Bell. I want to go see I'm going to take an extra day and go do that. And I know a lot of fans because I run into them from time to time around the country. You bump into somebody in Seattle and go, "Wait a minute, aren't you from Dallas?"
Right.
They go, "Well, yeah, but you know what? We decided we wanted to come up here, and we just planned our vacation the same weekend as the event. So we're coming to the racetrack, maybe only Saturday and Sunday. But in the meantime, we're going to go have lunch at the Space Needle. We're going to go down to the fish place where they throw the fish. What the hell's the name of that place?
The market.
Yeah, there you go. I was going to say Fisherman's Wharf, but that's in San Francisco. But, we decided to take our vacation and come here, and we're going to visit Seattle and go to the race at the same time. And I think there's a lot of fans that utilize that opportunity. It's like, look, we've got vacation we're going to take. We're going to plan a trip anyway. I'm not going to fly to Gainesville and just go to the racetrack and not do anything else. I'm going to fly to Gainesville. I'm going to go to the races. Then maybe I'll drive down to Daytona, or maybe I'll drive over to Tampa, or maybe I'll go to Disney in Orlando, and we'll make a vacation out of that. Spend a couple of days at the racetrack, and then spend 3 or 4 days doing whatever. And I think that's, personally, I think that's a great way to have a vacation.
Absolutely. Or go to the World Series of Pro Mod the week before, and then go to the Gator Nationals and back-to-back weekends and have the greatest drag racing week of your life. Either way, it's exciting. And someone says, does this mean we might get pro mods in Epping? Well, if there aren't going to be pro stock or pro stock motorcycle, NHRA is definitely going to fill in the schedule with something. I don't want to say what, but I feel like they'll use that opportunity, maybe some mountain motor pro stock. I don't want to, speak for them, but there'll be something of interest that you don't normally get to see, that's the whole point of it. That's what makes it fun and exciting.
Well, you put together the big pieces of the puzzle first, and then you fill in the rest of it. And that sounds like, all of the big pieces, the Camping World pieces are now in place, and they'll start working now on, which events are going to host which other categories, just like they do on the regional trail, when, it takes a lot of thought to go, okay, where are we going to do divisionals? Where are we going to do regionals? Where does it make sense to do a double? Where can we piggyback on something else? Where can we catch the traffic that's driving from one racetrack to another? There's just so much that goes into making all that stuff happen. Yeah,
events are hard. Simple as that. Alan, great job as usual. I will see you at PRI here in a few hours. Highs of 50s and lows of high 30s. No big deal. Definitely something that we can handle, especially when we're doing it for, the racing community.
I'm not going outside.
Yeah.
I can get from my hotel to the convention center to pretty much every restaurant, maybe one exception. I might do an Uber.
You got to go outside to get to St. Elmo's if you go in there, Alan. I'm just saying, so I'm definitely going outside. I got to hit Elmo's at least once. Okay,
you got to go outside 50 feet.
Yeah, exactly. Like a little sprint from one place to the next. Oh, it's a novelty, a little cold weather. Great job, of course. Total Seal booth 1525. I know you always swing by, but React for Your Race Cars is going to be happening. And it'll be very interesting to see all the folks on the practice tree. Going to be a lot of fun.
It should be. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I fly out pretty early tomorrow, so I guess I will see you in Indy. If not tomorrow, I will definitely cross paths with you, I'm sure, on Thursday.
Sounds great. All right, Alan, good luck, and we'll see you there.
It's me.
It's him. No, he is, right? It's Alan Reinhart is the answer to all questions. Later, Alan. There he goes, the voice of the NHRA. Alan Reinhart joins us each week right here on WFO Radio. We're going to go over that schedule one more time. So if you want to share the show to your friends, breaking news, they'll come on live. They'll hear the schedule announcement. I know Blake, who I haven't seen Blake comment out there. He was wondering about the schedule and all that stuff. I want to thank you to the folks in the newsmaking offices of the NHRA for posting the story while we were still on the air instead of waiting until we were off the air. Like, what's the point of that, man? Give me the news. Give me the news and I'll read the news and we'll talk about it. And guys will get excited about it. And then, of course, we can do it again and again. Nicholas saying, thanks, guys. Good show. Thank you very much, Nick. Appreciate you. Dawn S. I haven't seen comments from Dawn ever before. And now she's commenting. Love the podcast. Thank you very much. Yes, that's right. Audio only podcast available. Apple Podcast, SoundCloud. People, we have our own WFO Radio mobile app that is free. We would encourage you to download that. Would love to see more Heritage Series at the track. Well, they're working on all of this. The good news is everybody is super excited. So everyone is super excited about the future. Let me tell you about the people who make WFO possible, guys, and then we'll go back into the schedule one more time. Okay. First of all, WFO merch. I'm going to drop the link into the chat section. But if you're looking for holiday gifts for your WFO fan, you just want something for yourself, grab yourself some WFO merch. And you can find out more. Of course, everybody out there on YouTube, we need you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click the bell. Never miss a show. Just drop the YouTube link in there because I was going to tell you about that one first, but then I got on the merch. Here's the merch link. Morris Motorsports gear available. Classic Miami Hollywood Speedway gear available. WFO gear available. The Fire t-shirt available. All there for your WFO fans. But also, what is this? Anybody watching on Facebook, make your way over to YouTube so we can see your name with your comment. And yes, absolutely. The YouTube channel, we started with like 800 subscriptions, not really. And now we're closing in on 2,000. And that is really where we want everybody to be. I still broadcast to Facebook and I still broadcast on Twitter instead of just sharing the YouTube link out there because I think ultimately that's better for our engagement and conversation we have in the show. But at the same time, if everybody was watching on YouTube, it would be probably better for Joe. Just saying. All right. The people who make WFO possible, guys, I'm going to make your life a little bit easier with Marvin Rodak. Coffee, hot sauce, spice rub, grills, tools, tips, and information. You think you know everything, but you do not. This guy can make your Christmas experience very pleasurable with the coffee, the hot sauce, and the spice rub. It can make your gift buying experience for your friends even easier because I just send all my friends a little Rodax coffee. 817-924-6821. Call Marvin. Tell him you heard about it on WFO Radio. And there is a WFO Radio blend. There's Bang the Blower. There's DR Congo. There's all these different international blends of coffee that are amazing, amazing, amazing. Some of the best coffee in the world, not the vacuum packed stuff you're getting at Walgreens. This is much better. Call Marvin. Of course, Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School. They've got their Dragster Adventure program where you can drive a dragster, guys, like you driving a dragster or whoever you want to get it for as a gift. And you might be thinking, well, they won't be able to go. You get a gift card and you present it to them and they work it out with Frank. Where's the school going to be? They travel around the country, the most convenient location, et cetera, and so on. FrankHawley.com. Tell them you heard about it on WFO Radio. Samtech. They're approved to train veterans under the GI Bill, guys, for careers in motorsports and machining. They've got engine programs. They've got cylinder head programs. They've got motorsport EFI tuning programs. They can teach you how to program CNC machines. If you're looking for a career, they're approved to train veterans under the GI Bill. This is something you should investigate because these are jobs that we're going to need. And when I say we, I mean America. Did you see that they are... they're going to be building and opening a brand new top-level chips plant, microchips in Arizona. They don't make them in the United States right now. They're going to be making them in Arizona. I bet you there's CNC machines involved in that process. Just saying. It's manufacturing returns to the United States with all these great things that are happening. They're going to need people who are skilled workers. Where do you get that skill? Where do you get that education? samtech.edu. Of course, mentioned Bernie's Speed Shop, Phillips Connect, FTI Performance Transmissions and Torque Converters. I'm rocking the shirt here today. And Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. Booth number 1525. I encourage everybody to follow my social media because I am going to be announcing where I am going to be at the PRI Trade Show. Like, hey, I'm going to be going to the Total Seal booth now. Come hang out, say hi. I'm going to swing over to FTI. I'm going to be over by Foggett with Gary Stinnett, Steve Williams. Swing by. Sam Tech, swing by. So follow me on Twitter, enable the notifications, and I'll tell you where we're going to be. And it is going to be great stuff. All right. So I see some comments in the comments section. They're building one in Columbus, Ohio. Yeah, no, I listen. We never talk politics, but we talk patriotism and strength of country. And to bring all this microchip stuff back into the United States is a really good thing. And is something that was long overdue. And I think many people learned a valuable lesson during the pandemic. Like, what? We can't get stuff? No, you can't get stuff. And it doesn't even have to be your country. It has to be some the other country where they're building it all. If they have a problem, a failure, an issue, a virus, a disease, a war, then suddenly our country has got problems. Nah. So these chips programs where they're building one in Columbus, they're building one in Arizona, and it's also going to be you go do the research, guys. But the most advanced microchips that are currently made in Taiwan only, Taiwan and South Korea only place in the world. Do we know how to do them? No, we don't know how to do it here. Isn't that crazy? We're going to learn, and they're going to do it in Arizona. And they're hoping to build a whole like tech infrastructure where the smartest people in the world who know how to do that stuff are going to be doing it here in America once again. We invented chips, for gosh sakes. That's great news. And I bring it up because of Sam Tech. The challenge I hear is that they like, do we have the skilled workers to do that kind of stuff? And the answer is right now, no, because we're not doing it. But we can do anything because we're the United States of America. And yes, way to go. And this guy says Michigan also. This is what everybody wanted. Bring manufacturing back to the United States of America. But there's going to have to be some Samtech grads helping program those CNC machines. All of those things. It's a very exciting time. Michigan, Ohio, Arizona. We got a few Christmas gifts from WFO merch. Way to go. This guy says, good morning. Missing a class does not bother me that much. Exactly. One class, right? Like when I go to the races that Pro Stock isn't there, I feel like, something's missing, but I still have fun. All right, here's the announcement from the National Hot Rod Association. If you missed it, for the 2023 NHRA National Event Professional Calendar, Camping World Series. Top Fuel and Funny Car going to go to all races, obviously, from Gainesville to Pomona 2. There have been 2 additional all-star call-outs added to the schedule. One for Pro Stock, one for Pro Stock Motorcycle. The Top Fuel call-out will be at Gainesville. The Pro Stock call-out will be at Chicago. The Pro Stock Motorcycle call-out will be at Sonoma. And the Funny Car call-out will once again be at Indianapolis. Pro Stock going to start the season off with 6 in a row. Gainesville, Phoenix, Pomona, Vegas 4-wide, Charlotte 4-wide, Chicago, the big return to Chicago, getting Pro Stock. Of course, everyone's going to be at Chicago. Why will we shortchange those fans as we're trying to bring them back? Great. And I love that. Just I'm thinking about Pro Stock. Epping, no Pro Stock. Pro Stock taking Epping off. If you're going to take a race off, I feel bad for the folks up there in Epping. But a lot of other racers, race fans, including Brainerd, had to deal with no Pro Stock for a few years. And so now it's your turn to deal with no Pro Stock, but I'm sure you'll get something else. Bristol, Norwalk, Denver. 3 in a row for Pro Stock. No Western Swing for Pro Stock, just Denver. Seattle, Sonoma, off Pro Stock. So Pro Stock, and what is probably a budgetary move for those teams to not go up to the Great Northwest. They're going to take those races off. not having Pro Stock on the full Western Swing, a new revamped Western Swing, because remember, it goes Denver, Seattle, Sonoma this year, as opposed to Denver, Sonoma, Seattle. My hot take on that is that's an improvement. Finishing in Sonoma as opposed to finishing in Seattle. I haven't done it. I want to try it. Let's see how it goes. Bottom line. And then after Sonoma, that is the last off race for Pro Stock. Topeka, Brainerd, Pro Stock coming back. We already knew that. We talked about that with Greg Anderson a few weeks ago. Indianapolis, Reading, Charlotte 2, St. Louis, Dallas, Vegas, Pomona. So 2 off races for Pro Stock. So how many races is that for Pro Stock? That's 6, 7, 8, 9. Like that's a longer season. They've added a race. That's excellent stuff. Pro Stock Motorcycle. Start in Gainesville, then take 3 races off. Gainesville, East Coast, Phoenix, Pomona, Vegas 4 wide off. Second race of the season for Pro Stock Motorcycle, Charlotte 4 wide. Then Chicago, then a race off in Epping, then 5 in a row. Bristol, Norwalk, Denver, Seattle, Sonoma. Pro Stock Motorcycles doing the full pull Western Swing. That's kind of cool. And remember, they got their, at the conclusion of that, they got their Pro Stock Motorcycle call-out race. And yes, there's a lot of Pro Stock Motorcycle fans up there. 2 races off, Topeka and Brainerd. Oh, no Pro Stock Motorcycle in Brainerd again. We got Pro Stock, but no Pro Stock Motorcycle in Brainerd. I get it. I understand. Then you've got out the back door, 7 in a row. Indy, followed by the 6-race countdown, full countdown, Pro Stock Motorcycle. And to me, that's very important. You got to have the right sample size for the championship. And I don't know, 5 races is not a big enough sample size, in my opinion. You got to have 6. That's the deal. And so the schedule is out. The 2023 NHRA National Event Pro Category Series with the additional call-outs. Great job. I'm very excited. All right. Let's see what people have to say as we get ready to get out of here. Joliet back. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Bob Bender. We need a stock eliminator call-out. I'm all for it. Like a stock eliminator invitational call-out race, trash talk. What would happen? How about I get to pick the cars? You know, guy does attention to the pits. I get to pick the cars. And we'll just do an attention in the pits call-out. Like best of. Everybody who's gotten picked for attention in the pits and call-out. There's a neat one up there right now. Please check it out. Where it's a Z24 Cavalier front-wheel drive stalker. And the guy, he calls himself an oddball. Gary, go check it out. And leave a comment on there, too. Yeah, exactly. I call it. And see, Bobby Bender's in there. The big girl is going to be in there. Let's see. Manufacturing is the lifeline of our country. Yes, it is. And the good news is it's coming back. It's coming back. And that chips thing, so big. I know, you know, you got to be able to manufacture stuff in your country. I mean, that's a kind of a no-brainer, right? I got friends in Australia. V8 supercars ran their last race with Holden the other day. You know, I've got a Pontiac GTO, which is a Holden Monaro, and they are not going to make those anymore. They're going to have Camaros and Mustangs and Ford and GM, and it's probably good for us, but, you know, here in the States. But the Australians, they don't manufacture cars anymore. That almost happened here in America, by the way. Crazy stuff. Team Bertazzi to the line. Interesting. Dawn, made my living doing it. And you and countless others. I'm on board for a stock eliminator call out. See, people are getting excited in the way NHRA is going. Who knows what the future holds? Who knows what the future holds? Like maybe it'll come down the pike. Great show today. Safe travels to PRI. I agree. Time to get out of here. All right, guys. Want to remind you, first of all, this is the final WFO show of the week. The archive is loaded. The Ignition podcast. So much fun. It's audio only for while you're driving or while you're working, listening to a cool crew of people that I happen to be involved with, the WFO Patreons, who will get their backstage pass. They are the hosts. Sue Morris, Troy in Oregon, Bobby's Bug Barn, with the other Patreons all chiming in. It's kind of a fun experience. We do talk racing, but it's not a racing show. Patreon.com/WFO Radio. Go check out the Patreons. If you want to join up, join up. It's going to be good stuff. A big thanks to all of our sponsors. Big thanks to all of our listeners. If you're going to PRI, $15.25 total seal. And a lot of great other booths. And, of course, we're going to have a good time. If you're a WFO listener, you're out there, you see me walk by, shout out WFO. I want to meet up with everybody as possible. Don says, see you next time. Bye-bye. Thanks, Joe. See you at PRI, says Earl Nichols. He's hanging out with Jungle Pam. Earl Nichols is hanging out with Jungle Pam. That's pretty cool. How about an international call-out? Australian funny cars versus NHRA or fuel cars. I love it. I love the idea. I really think what we should do is we should put a bunch of cars in a couple of those Coletta Air 747s and go barnstorming across Europe. Is what I think. But, you know, I just spent a lot of money. It's easier spending other people's money than your own. Today, the last 747 is rolling off the production line at Boeing. Think about that as the end of an era. I just saw a report about that. All right, guys, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Remember, Ron Capps in the archive. Brittany Force in the archive. And, of course, Alan Reinhart in the archive. WFO.